Mr. Chair, as well as colleagues. This chamber has been very instrumental in California's climate leadership. With the passage of our landmark climate policy, AB 32, as well as our California Clean Car Standards, your predecessors right here in this very same chamber, the California State Assembly, established a framework that is now widely considered a model for the world. Both of our houses just recently had the pleasure and the privilege of hosting Ms. Cristina Figueres, the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Ms. Figueres has overseen, as we all know, and facilitated global climate change negotiations for decades. She said California has figured it out before everyone else has. We are demonstrating that it is in fact possible to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and grow our economy at the same time. We have answered the critical question that we can indeed delink carbon emissions from GDP. We are doing so while also protecting the most vulnerable in our society, the poor, and those that bear the disproportionate burdens of pollution and the impacts of climate change. Now, right now, California residents in our poorest districts are suffering from the worst air quality in the nation. In fact, California is home to the 5 most polluted cities in the nation, according to the American Lung Association. We are dealing with a historic drought that is costing jobs on our farms, jobs on our ranches, and leaving thousands without water for even the most basic daily needs. We have crafted a system of policies that recognizes, as our Holy See, Pope Francis, recently did in his encyclical, that those who suffer the most from our consumption and excess are those who contribute least to the problem and who are the least able to protect themselves from poor air quality and other environmental hazards. We're talking about children. We're talking about the elderly, the poor, the frail, and the sick. But right now, we're implementing programs to ensure that the benefits of our climate change policies go where they're needed the most. And it took courage. It took courage to reach across the aisle, to look past the next election cycle, and to hold firm in the face of waves of doubt and alarm unleashed by certain oil groups as well as other industry groups. They said that this would destroy, in fact, our economy. It would bring it to a grinding halt. They said it would result in another energy crisis. And Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'd like to read just a few of those statements because they're largely the same ones that we're going to be here today with regards to SB 350. We'll hear today from the California Manufacturers and Technology Association, who back in 2006 told the Los Angeles Times, there's no way to get to these targets except by stopping the use of energy. And that's in reference to the Climate Change, Climate Warming Solutions Act of 2006 that originated from this great body, the California State Assembly, where I come from. The chief economist of the American Council for Capital Formation told the Los Angeles Times, also in June 2006, my guess is that energy use would have to come down close to 40%. It would practically shut the state down. And in 2002, the California Car Standards, the Moss Brothers Auto Group wrote in a letter to then Governor Gray Davis, this bill could very well lead us down the road to another energy crisis. Now, the California Car Standards are the car standards for the entire nation. So if you live in Alabama or Arizona or a right-to-work state like Texas, Louisiana, if you live in upper state New York, when you purchase a car, it's a California standard car based on the design that was formulated right here in this very chamber. Now, as we know, none of these doomsday predictions came to fruition. In fact, the opposite happened. Our economy continues to grow. We have weathered a global financial crisis, and we have come back stronger than ever. We have added more jobs since the end of the recession than any other state, and we continue to grow faster at a faster rate than any other state. Our GDP is nearly 30% higher than it was a decade ago when AB 32 was signed into law, and our population has also grown. Our energy use has increased, and we are now the 8th largest economy in the world, and yet our greenhouse gas emissions are falling rapidly. And thanks to the leadership of this chamber, in fact, in a bipartisan, collaborative manner, we have added clean energy technology to our mantle of economic leadership, right there with entertainment, biotech, information tech, as well as agriculture. And the world just isn't watching what we do here in the state of California. They're actually following, and they're acting. California has already partnered with 2 provinces in Canada, both Quebec as well as Ontario, to extend our cap-and-trade program. We have signed agreements with sovereign nations, just recently with China as well as Mexico, and other nations around the world to coordinate our efforts to share best practices and to commit to even further action. And even though Congress is currently mired in gridlock, the nation is moving forward on clean energy with the Clean Power Plan, with new fuel efficiency standards for cars and trucks that are modeled after our own standards that were designed in this chamber. President Obama has signed agreements with China as well as Brazil to limit emissions, increase our use of renewable energy, and to clean up our air. So the stage is set for a binding global agreement. All this time, California was leading the charge, and we're stronger because of it. We have a head start, no doubt about it, on building the new economy of tomorrow, but we still have a long way to go. Now, we cannot afford to keep the status quo. We need to break the stranglehold that certain types have, or certain industries have right now on our economy, and give consumers more options for cleaner and more sustainable ways to power their homes, their businesses, as well as their cars. SB350 will build on a legacy that has already started in this very same chamber, the Assembly. And I'm very proud to partner with this chamber, with you, Mr. Chair, as well as to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle on this issue as we move forward in writing a next chapter, a new chapter for California's climate leadership. This is a moment in history that will have consequences that last long after we leave this earth. With that, Mr. Chair, as well as Mr. Vice Chair and my colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.